Dave, speaking of Windjammers,
Man, I've been slinging some hot discs.
yeah, man, it's
Um,
pretty good, isn't it?
oh man,
It's a lot like Windjammers 1, so,
funnily enough, yeah, we're both noted Windjammers enthusiasts to the point where we were so starving for a new flying disc game when Windjammers the original hadn't been ported yet that we got really into that disc jam game for about a month when it dropped on Switch. Yeah, Windjammers 2 was part of the massive deluge to Game Pass on January 20th. Downloaded it from work, started playing it at home last night. They have switched from the kind of old arcadey pixelated sprites to more of a kind of like, it looks like a fucking Windjammers animated series now, and I gotta say,
it's kind
I
of
like
similar
it.
to Streets of It's kind of similar to Streets of Rage 4, the way that they update the art style for that.
Very much, and I like it, and I think it works. I think Windjammers 2 is an excellent game, if a bit limited in some ways. Now, I think for you and me, who enjoy the Windjammers experience, I don't think that necessarily hampers us. It has the two things we would want in it. It has an arcade mode, which you can play by yourself. It has a versus mode where you can play against other people. And it has an online mode. More about that in a couple of seconds. So those are kind of the three things we would want from it. But I understand that within those, there's not a lot of huge variation or custom game modes you can do. So I can understand that criticism. The one thing I was like, I'd appreciate if they had fleshed this out a bit more was that I was like, I booted it up and I hadn't played the original Windjammers in a while, and I was like, I need to remember how to play this game. Let's go into the tutorial. But the tutorial is just a series of screens.
It's
really
so
bad.
basic.
It's really bad.
Stunningly basic.
It's just literally you just read the instructions and then you fucking hop into arcade mode and see if you can remember all that.
It doesn't even give you like a GIF, you know?
Yeah, that was pretty disappointing, especially because they've added some new shit to it.
Yeah.
In terms of what they've added to it, I haven't mastered it by any stretch of the imagination, but I fucking love the jump.
I can't remember if it's in the first one, but you know the kind of like parry sort of thing where you just kind of tap it and it goes over the net.
So
it's such a dick move.
Yeah, so you could parry it, but I don't think you had the variation you do in this of the types of parry you can do. So there's this, I think you could just do the smash parry where you would just rebound it back as quickly as possible at them, but I don't think you can do the slow or looping parries that you can do in this that you've described. At least not as handily anyway. And yeah, they have filtered in some dick moves. The jump is great. Like, it's one of those things where it's so satisfying to pull off. So you have to you jump and you have to try and, it's already difficult enough to figure out where the fucking disc is going to go when it's thrown at an angle. But if you can jump and intercept the disc, like your path of your jump intersects with the disc at roughly the same height, you can then hit an almighty powerful rebound or spiked shot from up in the air. And that shit is really, really cool. I think some of the new characters look really good. Like, I immediately went route one and picked the first character on the screen to try out at first. And it's just like this Brazilian kid who's a skateboarder, and his animation when he's celebrating is him just fucking skateboarding around on the court at the end. Yeah, I think the characters look good. I think some of the arenas look good. There's a nice little bit of difference in some of the environments. I can't think of the name. I think it's the Wasteland maybe. Where the net is there, but the net isn't there. But there are these two blocks or like metal things in the middle that when the disc hits them, it moves one or both of them around. So it's not always consistently in the same place. And obviously if you hit it right, it's going to change the angle of the shot as well as move the thing. So it's just a little bit more challenging. Makes the different, much as we love Windjammers, most of those original courts looked the same, but that's, the limitations of the time. Sure. Of the time, so we're not going to hold that against them too much. The other, I suppose, major pitfall about it, and it could be, do you know, sometimes with these kind of games, it could already not be a problem as we're talking about it now, but right after it launched, as happens so many times with these games that are made by a small team and then get a day one Xbox Game Pass release, the online was absolutely fucked yesterday at different points. I know you were saying you got online no problem.
I wasn't playing online. It was just me and Maria.
Okay.
And me slowly teaching her how to play the game over the course of an hour. So that had its own difficulties, but I didn't try online yet.
I couldn't get online, so I still haven't played a game online. During the couple of hours I played it, I couldn't get online. The few times I tried, I know Giant Bomb did a stream that they ended up calling "We're trying to play Windjammers" or something like that, and they were trying to play because obviously they're all work from home, so they were all trying to play it together. And I don't know if they got it working eventually or how successful or not, but I was seeing a few tweets around going that the online was kind of not working too much. I don't think that, because Windjammers is there's such a small hardcore base. I think a lot of people who were playing it on Game Pass on the first day weren't going to be trying online just yet. They were going to try to figure out how to play the game for themselves, so it's not a massive problem just yet, and because nobody really fucking paid for the game with it being on Game Pass. But once again, like a lot of those Game Pass games that get overwhelmed, or like, do you remember Fall Guys as well was like completely overwhelmed the first couple of days. They will, touch wood, find a balance there within a couple of days. So I'm just gonna have a bit of patience for it.
How's the AI in? Was you playing the arcade mode, right?
Yeah, it's good. I've only been playing. I played a little. I played to get up to speed. I was playing it on easy and then turned to medium for my last couple of matches, and yeah, really good. The thing I noticed the most about it is that you feel the difference in your opponent more than you would have in the original Windjammers, where it feels like each one of the AI characters, like as you go through this arcade mode and you face the different people on the map, they feel like they have a different style, and that's not just down to their their special moves have huge variance in them as well. And that, I think that's one of the things that for the first while the learning curve will be, you're just going to need to remember what their special, their AB trigger, their finishing move is, so that you can try and somehow time a perfect parry on it, because otherwise you're going to get smashed into the back of the net for 5 points. But I have noticed in my matches that there are like some of the characters pretty routinely will play a very defensive game where they'll stay right on they keep their heels right on the back line in front of that 5 point target, and play a pretty defensive game of Windjammers. And then I'll find, like, I think I was playing one of the real power dudes, and his game was all about getting right up in your face at the net, so that, yeah, you could sometimes score really big and blow him away in a set by trying consistently to lob him. But it was also really difficult to defend against him because he had pretty good reaction speeds, and once he parried it, like, because he was so close to the net, you were pretty fucked unless you happened to be standing exactly where he was going to hit it. So yeah, it's been an interesting challenge. I think it's going to be like, I feel like there is a real game of skill element to it, and that it's going to be interesting to see what characters people main in the online mode once it's all settled. I've only really played as one character myself, so I don't know from you as the player perspective how different the characters feel. But from the AI, it definitely doesn't just feel like I'm playing the same reskinned AI every time.
Yeah, I mean, you can definitely tell because there's 8 characters, and they definitely run the gamut from like the ratio of speed to power, and you can definitely tell the difference when you're playing with like the fastest character and the strongest character. I don't know if you felt, with the strongest character, you can just knock the fuck out of your opponent if you throw hard enough.
I don't know if you felt it during the original Windjammer, as much as we love it, that like they would have different star ratings for things like that, but they all kind of felt the same. They looked different, but they all felt the same. Yeah. So that's good to hear from your perspective that you do feel the more powerful ones versus the more speedy ones. So that will allow for interesting dynamics, and then who knows, like they could end up rebalancing things, they could end up adding characters. I don't know if any or what post-release support or events or anything like that are happening. But yeah, I think for a quick and digestible online matchmaking experience, I think Windjammers is going to tide me over quite nicely until the Squid Kids are back, hopefully later this year. Because I really do have a hankering for that Splatoon game now, and I didn't think I was gonna. But yeah, Windjammers 2, it's on Game Pass. Like, why the fuck not?